Everyone, welcome to our show. My name is Curtis Brooks, and this is Entrepreneurship episode number 15. Today we are talking about how to give your customer or client the experience. And you're asking, what is the experience? We're going to talk about three things that's going to help magnify, going to help encourage you as you are nearing that place, or at least desiring to give your customer or your client the experience. And you're asking, what is the experience, Curtis? Well, let me share that with you. The experience is about you. Three things we're going to talk about. The experience is about, the first thing is knowing thy customer. Yes, it's important to know thyself, but it's also relevant to know thy customer. So that's going to be the first one. And then we're going to talk about the test. It's just simply titled test. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about invest. That'll be the last, or at least the last bullet point we'll be talking about. First, know thy customer. How well do you know thy customer? In most cases, most of us, we know ourselves, or at least we should know ourselves. But how well do we know our customer? It is absolutely essential to know thy customer. And I'll give you an example from my own book of mishaps or situations, is that when I was, desiring to become an entrepreneur, and I've actually been doing all kinds of different things even since I was a young kid, meaning just walking up and down the street as a grade school, pushing my lawnmower, knocking on doors. Would you like your grass cut? And it's summertime in Chicago, or excuse me, in the wintertime in Chicago, knocking on doors. Would you like your driveway shoveled? So I was always doing something, down from selling candies, selling lemonade. I was always doing something. So I've always had that entrepreneur spirit. But as we grow older and become wise about certain things, it's important to know thy customer. And one of the clear examples that I've learned in knowing thy customer, that the customer wants an experience. We all want an experience. And I'll tell you, case in point, is that most of us, or many of us, I would venture to say, is that we remember the experience. It doesn't matter what it is, how awful it is, how great it is, but we remember the experience. So how well do you know thy customer? Do you know thy customer? Or can we know thy customer completely 100%? Absolutely not, because people change, their needs change. Such as when I was a youngster, pushing the lawnmower in the summertime, knocking on doors and asking if they wanted their grass cut. In wintertime, dragging my shovel along with a bucket of salt to put it in the driveway after I finished shoveling the snow. There was a certain need I was able to meet at that particular stage in my life, or meet the customer's needs. And I didn't clearly understand it at that time, obviously, as I understand it now. So now I want to encourage all of you is to know thy customer. And again, that simply means that do the research. One of the things I recently added to my website, and I'm learning a lot of different things as well, so I just don't want to put it out there as if I know everything. Absolutely not. But I'm learning a lot of different things as well, and Google has this little setup, all kinds of different things that you can do. It's called Google Analytics, and it shows you how many people are visiting your website, and it gives you just a gamut of information. And I want to encourage you, if you have your website, to make use of that. And even with Facebook, if you're using Facebook to stream video or to post different comments there in your professional, your business profile, you can make use of the information that Google or Facebook gives you in regards to who is viewing your information. Guys, use that information. And another way you can know thy customer is to ask questions. Create a survey for your customers. And if you don't have the customer base yet, create a survey. Share it on your personal page as well. Ask your friends, your Facebook friends, about the question that you're going to address within your survey. Take that information and use it, because rest assured, Google and Facebook, they're using your information. And we have to be intentional, the same fashion that Google and Facebook is. All right, guys, we are back here. Again, we're talking about being intentional, how to give your customer, your client, the experience. There are 3 things that we are discussing within this 30-minute show. But before we go on about that, I want to encourage you to visit our website at www.imcurtisbrooks.com for more information about me. You'll find a program that I offer that is the Power of Excellence, and we've got yet another project that I'm working on, and it's still in the process of right now, but another project I'm working on is affirmation cards and a journal that is going to be powerful. They're a journal you will use to jot down your pertinent information as you are reading your affirmation cards and discovering new findings about who you are. Again, making sure that you're journaling that information and rediscovering it, what you haven't seen before. So it's important to, again, read the affirmation. In the past I've done, or at least a few days ago, I've done a couple of videos about affirmation and just how powerful they are. And equally as powerful is your journey. So ensure that you are journalizing the information. So again, I encourage you to visit us at our website at www.imcurtisbrooks.com for more information about me and what I do as a transformational speaker. Again, we're talking about being intentional. It is important to be intentional. That is absolutely what Facebook does, absolutely what Google does, and so many other social media platforms. They are intentional about the information that they are extracting from your website. For instance, with Google, you can absolutely look at all of your searches there in Google at any time you want to, through your own website or through your browser. And I can't remember how to get there, but as you look around the browser, and you'll find that all the searches, all the inquiries that you may have done in regards to the information that you're trying to discover, you're trying to buy a pair of shoes, pair of slacks, or whatever the case may be. But if you're looking for something, Google is going to give you all the information as it relates to that search. You can actually look through your browser and look at the searches that you've done. So here's what Google does. They take that information and again, formulate it in a way so that eventually it becomes automated, so that when you go back to that same browser, you begin to type in how to build a house, how to discover XYZ. It could be anything. And if you notice, most of your searches will, or at least your previous searches would begin to populate, if you will. So Google takes that information and begins to create a profile. There's so many profiles that we have. Again, a lot of us are asking the same questions, but Google uses that information to sell you a product. And if you notice, it took me a long time to really recognize what was going on, because I can remember, I understand it now, but I can remember when I was looking for maybe audio equipment, I may have gone to a particular website, and then later on, that same information would show up on my Facebook. I said, that's the same information I looked up before. And again, totally oblivious, but again, it's done somehow, through SEO, I'm sure, but nevertheless, know thy customer. Know thy customer, and of course, your client. It is absolutely essential that you know your client, your customer, and how to sell to them, what their needs are. One of the things at least the stories I started to tell, I think I got sidetracked, but nevertheless, is that I can remember not very long, and again, learning how all of this works, not only as an entrepreneur, but just as a salesperson. as well, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're absolutely selling something. Product or service, you're selling absolutely something. There's something that you're selling. And you have to know how to sell to your customer or your client. And again, Google offers analytics, all kinds of different things that you can extract, not only from your website, but also from videos. There's just so many different things that you can do. It gives you to the point where is that when you're watching, even on YouTube, when you're watching your videos, you can find out where your viewers are dropping off at. And so if you need to make changes to those areas of your video and increase it, give it more, jazz it up a little bit more, I mean, that's what you need to do. But the name of the game is keeping your viewers or your customer, your client, keeping their attention. That's the name of the game. And how you keep their attention is finding out what they want, what their needs are. So how well do you know that customer? Again, my story was that for me, coming up in this game and growing up and trying to discover and listen and know and sell, much like most of you are, is that I was so excited about what I had to offer. And to meet a potential client was absolutely awesome for me. And as I'm sure it is for you. But here's what I was doing. I was giving all the information about me. Here's what I can do for you, blah, 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 blah. And the list would go on to the point that as I look back now, the customer had this, or the client had this look on their face, was like, absolutely, or probably maybe exhausted, because I had given so much information. And that's great. But here's the problem is, I didn't give my customer or my client an opportunity to express themselves. And before I had the opportunity to listen to what they had to say, they had said no. And here's what I discovered and my previous communication is that, again, not giving that customer, that potential customer or client, an opportunity to express themselves, I restricted them to a space, if you will, almost as if I had them cornered. That wasn't my intention, but nevertheless, that's what I did. Essentially had the customer or that client cornered. And again, not knowing, essentially I was saying, you're going to listen to me. This is what I can do for you. But again, I never had given the customer or the client an opportunity to express themselves. Lesson learned is that in order to find out what the customer needs are, to know that customer, we have to give them position, or at least give them space to express themselves. Ask the right questions. How can I help you? That's probably the easiest thing that we can do, is to, how can I help you? How can I serve you? And what way are you, and what are you looking for? Some of those simple questions, to the point where even to walk in a fast food, hi, how can I help you? That's the very first question in most cases McDonald's will ask you. Hi, how are you? How can I help you? Something simple as that. Then we begin to share or express ourselves in a fashion where we begin to share our needs. So the salesperson, be it me or you or individual, begins to learn what the customer needs. And after we learn what the customer needs, we're going to move on to the test. This is where we test the information. And it's interesting because how, if you're looking on Facebook or browsing the internet for any reason, you may see a blog with a certain title. My title of this particular show is How to Give Your Customer the Experience, your customer or client the experience. And you may see that same show or blog, let's say if it was a blog, you may see that same blog in a different format, not so much a different format, but titled differently. It may be titled, Give Your Customer Their Experience. Two different titles, but yet it may have a third title. That title could be, are you giving your customer or client the experience? That's actually a pretty good title. But nevertheless, that being said, there are 3 different titles that I just spoke of. And each title means something different to your prospects, if you will. And from those titles, your prospect would respond, hey, I want to find out, what does this mean? That's interesting. So to test is essentially to create another blog, not so much another blog, but another posting, and title it give it a different title. It can be the same blog, same information, but yet a different title. It can be, again, that same blog, that same video, that same product, if you will, but you change your packaging a little bit. Be it your product or your service that you're offering. Any kind of posting that you might do. You may give it a couple of different names and find out where your customer is responding, what your customer is responding to. We talked about creating a survey. That's yet another way how you're going to know that customer. Hop in or at least join some of the different groups that are on Facebook. Just randomly ask questions. Again, being intentional. Being intentional with your questions here. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be right back in just a few moments here. All right, guys, we are back in. My name is Curtis Brooks, your transformational speaker and entrepreneur coach here on our Facebook Live. This is episode number 15. We're talking about how to give your customer or client the experience. And you may be asking, Curtis, what is the experience? First, we've talked about know thy customer or client. You must know your customer or your client. Do the research. Find out what they're looking for. Again, as I mentioned in the earlier part of the show, is that Google has all kinds of different ways you can find out what your customer is looking for. One, by offering analytics. Analytics will stretch out. Again, that's kind of a general term, but analytics will give you what your customer is looking at on your website. And I'm sure there's probably some other detailed programs or software options that are available that you can purchase that may give you more details than what Google does. But Google Analytics is a free program, or at least software that Google adds onto your website by, again, or I didn't mention this, but you can paste the meta tag into your website, and it will again all of a sudden, through the power of the internet or SEO or whatever the workings behind the scenes are, it will begin to give you the analytics in regards to who's visited your website with the age group, and again, break it down into so many different groups. Again, being just very general in the term of analytics, it's again just a general term, but yet analytics in a way of who's been at your website at what time of the day, blah, blah, and just a list of different things that you can use that information to discover who's been on your website at what time, and how many people are visiting, what articles they're looking at, what area of your website that attracts them. So all of that information is absolutely important. It's essential. So again, remember, there's Google Analytics, and again, probably a host of other ones out there. And then there's Facebook. Facebook gives you a lot of good information. And again, a lot of stuff I'm discovering as well. So it is a lot of good information out there. So we've talked about Google Analytics, and we've been talking about testing. So again, testing involves creating a survey for your customers. Find out what their needs are. I told my own story in regards to how, as an entrepreneur, that I was so gung-ho, I gave my resume in regards to what I could do, and maybe the customer or potential client was impressed. But I had to learn, and sometimes that's my challenge, that Curtis, it's not about you. And perhaps you're dealing with that very same situation. It's not about you. It's about knowing thy customer and what their needs are. So that was, again, one of my valuable lessons. So we've been talking about test. Test your findings. Test the market. Find out what your customer is responding to. Again, Google Analytics and Facebook. And again, there's probably a host of different other programs or software that I'm not aware of and don't know anything about. But again, test your market. Know what your customers are looking for. And it's important to, again, be in that space, get into their head. And the only way that you're going to get into your customer or your client's head is to ask the right questions. And they'll answer you. Again, being intentional is absolutely important. So you must test, test, test. Know thy customer. Again, do the research, ask the right questions, and then begin to test your findings. We talked about the blog, creating a blog, creating a video. That same video, changing the title, or perhaps using an excerpt from your blog and creating 3 different titles for that excerpt. The video, again, that same video, creating 3 or 4 different titles. 3 is usually a pretty good number. Again, creating 3 different titles for that video so that you're getting some kind of feedback and seeing what your customer is, your potential customer or client is responding to. So it's absolutely important to know that. And before we wrap it up here, we're going to talk about our last topic or last bullet point, and that is to invest. We've been talking about how to give your customer the experience. That's what your customer or your client needs. They need an experience. And the information is great. It's wonderful. And it absolutely will work for us. But again, part of giving your customer, your client, the experience is to know thy customer. Test the information. And after you've tested the information, we need to invest. We need to be able to invest in the information that we find or that we've discovered that's working. It's absolutely essential to creating the customer-client experience. So how do we give the customer, the client, the experience? Each of us obviously will have our own different turns and twists on maybe the same thing. One person does it this way, and yet another person does it this way, and yet 20 more people do it different ways. But nevertheless, make sure that you and I are being intentional about the experience that we're designed to create for the customer. Not about what we want to create, and so much as create an experience for myself, much in the sense I told you of the story for me, whereas that I was eager to share my resume with the customer or client. I gave them an experience, but in fact, it needed to be the other way around. It needed for me, I needed to give the customer or client an experience. And how I need to do that is, again, making myself available. And I want to encourage you to make yourself available to your customer or your client. Remember, it's not about us. And that's been one of my challenges, is to remember, Curtis, it's not about you. It's about what the needs of your customer, your client is. They have an issue, they have a problem, and it needs to be solved. And who else can solve their problem but you or I? That's what we're here for. We're here to solve problems, create solutions. We're here to serve and help others. That's what entrepreneurship is about. So as you are creating, serving others, be sure, remember to invest in yourself. Not only just in yourself, but invest in the client. My hope is that you are investing in yourself. That's how you're finding out what your client needs, spending the time. not just jumping out there haphazardly, but again, invest in your product, invest in your service, because you have ascertained the information and find out information about your customer, your client. Now it's time to test it. And after you tested the information, it's time to invest. Make the investment, because now that you've discovered what works, now you can full steam ahead and making the right investment, the appropriate investment. So when some say, well, there's not a right or wrong. Yes, there is a right or wrong, because the findings are telling you what your customer, your client is looking for. So is there a right or wrong? Absolutely. One may have a different set of customers, and customers obviously have different needs. But there absolutely is a right or wrong. And what I mean again is that if you've asked several questions and you've got yes to maybe 80% of the questions that you've answered, that you've asked, and again, 80% of those responses have been a positive response, guess what? It's, it really, guys, come on. It's common sense. Let's use it. Let's go in the direction which the customer is seeking. So part of making the investment is, again, asking the right questions. That's absolutely essential. Ask the right questions. That is absolutely essential, that we ask the right questions. So that is part of the investment. Again, spending time building up. Again, one other big part of the investment is creating a better website, creating a better mousetrap, if you will. That's essentially what we're doing. Creating a better mousetrap. That is your investment. How are we catching our customers? And absolutely catching them, because you have to catch them. You have to use persuasive language to catch them. So again, building a better mousetrap, if you will. Meaning that if your website needs work, my website needs work. Find out more about SEO, how those things work. Because Google has their ratings. How are you going to rate in the analytics part of Google, meaning that they're going to find you? How's your customer going to find you? Again, to find out more about who we are and who I am, my name is Curtis Brooks. I am a transformational speaker and entrepreneur coach. Our website is going to be www.iamcurtisbrooks.com. And to get in touch with me, you can email me at bookme, that's BOOKME, at iamcurtisbrooks.com. Once again, we're talking about how to give your customer or client the experience. And as we wrap it up here, we're talking about we talked about or discussed three things. Those three things were, again, know thy customer. That's the very first thing that we must engage in. We must engage in conversation, engage our customer, our potential customer client in conversation, dialogue. Reach out, network. That's how we find out. Again, know thy customer. Test the information that you've discovered. I mentioned blogging. Use that same article, a blog that you posted. Create 3 different titles for that same blog, that same video. Give that same video 3 different titles. Listen to how your potential customers are responding. Test the information. Review the results. Because rest assured, how your customer, your client is responding is the direction that you need to go. It absolutely is. So let's not make it too difficult. Whereas that I've been there before. Absolutely made the information difficult because just needed to get out of myself. It wasn't about Curtis, but let's make it about your customer, your client. So Finally, we talked about the investment. Make an investment on what you've discovered. Be willing to pay for certain things. Pay for a coach. Pay for a consultation. Be willing to invest in your product, your service that you're offering. Be willing to go forward, again, full steam ahead in your findings. Discover new clients. Discover all kinds of different things that's going to, again, allow you to essentially build a better mousetrap. That's what this is about. That's what Google is doing. That's what Facebook is doing, guys. Facebook keeps our attention. I'm a frequent user of Facebook, not only because I have the Facebook Live events that I do, but because there's all kinds of my friends are on there. They post different things that interest me, some things that don't interest me, but my friends are there mainly. And again, Facebook has it covered in a lot of different ways. Google has it covered in a lot of ways. So again, remember, know thy customer, test the information, your findings, and thirdly, make an investment on what you have discovered. Because rest assured, now that you have the information on what your customer is looking for, you can be sure that now your investment is going to pay for itself. So it takes time, guys. It absolutely takes time. Really, it's not an overnight thing. And as much as we want to say or believe there's overnight success, cut it out, guys. There's no such thing as overnight success. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes perseverance. Again, know thy customer, test the information, and lastly, be willing to invest. Again, guys, my name is Curtis Brooks. As we wrap it up here, to find out more information about me, you can, of course, check out our Facebook Live or our Facebook profile here at I am Curtis Brooks on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at I am Curtis Brooks on Twitter. And you can also find me on LinkedIn at I am Curtis Brooks on LinkedIn. And finally, you can find me on YouTube at Curtis Brooks Transformational Speaker /coach. Again, that's Curtis Brooks Transformational Speaker /coach. There on YouTube, I have a list of other videos that I've done here. I'm ramping it up, guys, here because I want to know what you want to hear. Again, it's not about me, it's about you as my potential customer or client. So I'm ramping up these videos here because I want to know what you want to hear. So be not afraid to leave comments, suggestions in the posting area of this video here. Would absolutely love to hear from you and know what you like and know what you don't like. So again, please be encouraged. Leave me a comment and I'll try to respond as quickly as possible. Again, my name is Curtis Brooks, your transformational speaker and entrepreneur coach here doing our Facebook Live. This is episode number 15, how to give your customer or client the experience here on entrepreneurship. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Have a great day. Ciao.